Hi everyone, this is Ramanuj here from Lawsikho, and today we are talking about a very interesting topic, and we have a guest, Dr. Jerryl Banait. Normally you see lawyers over here, but today we have Dr. Banait, Jerryl, and he is somebody, although he's a doctor, he is very active, has been filing many public interest litigations and has a knowledge of law out of passion and out of interest rather than as a lawyer. For us it is our profession, but for Jerryl it is a passion, and he is a very active citizen, uh, uh, dealing with many issues. And because he's a doctor and he's a somebody who has recently filed PILs even up to the Supreme Court and got orders that have enabled the medical professionals to get access to personal protection kits, and he has been involved in other cases as well. So it's a great opportunity for us to learn about the practical issues that are arising right now over access to essential medicine related to COVID, as well as uh, uh, other things like the personal protection kits. So let's welcome Jerryl, and let's get started. Hi everybody. Hi Jerryl. Jerryl, I cannot hear you. You're not audible. Uh, Let me just. Can you speak? No, I'm not audible. I see two screens here. Yeah, can you speak again?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, Jerryl, there are two devices near you, I believe, and there's a massive feedback. Can you switch off one of the devices?
Is the echo already?
No, there's a massive feedback. There are two devices near you. When there are two devices close by accessing the same feed, this kind of feedback happens. Can you switch off one of the feeds that you like? Just sign out from the webinar. From okay, I'll do it myself. 1 second. Let me check. Okay, it should be good now. Yeah, go ahead, speak.
Yeah, 1 second.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah, I have removed access to one of the devices that was there. Now there won't be any feedback. We can continue. We can see you. We can hear you. Good time to get started.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on this platform and giving me this opportunity to express myself. And I would like to thank the entire team of Lawsikho and you, especially Mr. Ramanujam, that you took interest in this particular case for our medical fraternity who are working day in and day out. And today, in today's very difficult times, they are the warriors and the unsaid soldiers in white apron, and you gave me the opportunity to represent my entire medical fraternity, may it be doctors, nurses, ward boys, ambulance drivers, ASHA workers, Anganwadi workers, or anybody who is working in field of COVID-19 in today's day.
Great. I think it's a very important topic. Why don't we begin by getting to know you a little better? Would you share about yourself a little?
Okay, so I'm Dr. Jerryl Banait, and I'm 27 years old. I'm doing my residency in dermatology in Nagpur, Maharashtra. And I have been an activist, I have been a conservationist, I have worked in the field of wildlife and environment. I have filed multiple public interest litigations in the past as well, some of which were for tigers. You might have heard about a case in which female tiger or a mother tiger, Avni, was declared as a man-eater, and there were shoot-at-sight orders issued against her. So
Right.
I filed a public interest litigation to protect her and her two young cubs from being killed inside the jungle itself. And I took that case in the Bombay High Court of Nagpur bench and took it up till the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that tigress was killed uh, illegally, but the cases are still going on to bring justice for Avni. And I have organized multiple protests also in the past, and one of which was very famous, which happened on 11th of November 2018.
Right.
And it was in 33 cities, 11 countries, and 5 continents on the same day, same time, and the same theme to bring justice for Avni. Similarly, I have worked for another tigress, a sub-adult tigress known as Kismat, T27C1 Kismat, against whom 3 shoot-at-sight orders were given. I challenged all of them also, and unfortunately, I lost her due to illegal poaching by electrocution. Thereafter, I made a video on awareness for electrocution, and we organized signature campaigns, and we sent all those signatures to the Honorable Prime Minister of India. Then many signatures came in from NRIs also. There were almost 15,000 signatures which came in from international agencies. I had support of 168 international organizations during this entire process, and they were ready to help me for tranquilizing this tigress and shifting it back to uh, a better location, or a location which can reduce the man-animal conflict. Then I have worked for environmental causes, that is the migratory corridors in which the tigers move, or the particular animal moves. So it should be free from human encroachment. I have worked for migratory corridors. I have worked for man-animal conflict. In the past, I have donated a lot of solar water pumps, which can provide perennial source of water for the tigers and the other wild animals inside the jungle itself.
Right.
I've organized wildlife exhibitions in Mumbai in the Rat Gallery, and these kind of sort of public interest work I have done in the past also, and I'm still continuing.
Excellent. So, if you can tell me a little about the work that you are doing right now related to COVID-19, what are the cases that you have been filing, and what has been the experience?
So I'll start with what triggered me to file this case in the Supreme Court. So my elder brother, Dr. Yash Banait, he was posted at Chhatrapati International Airport, Terminal 2, for screening and screening process of the incoming international passengers for COVID-19. And he was leading a team of 30 doctors who were in the administration process as well as screening process. And he gave me a very first-hand information about what are the situations going on at the international airport. Then my parents also being doctors, my dad is a pediatrician, my mom is a gynecologist. They were also facing a lot of problem because COVID or coronavirus is a very highly contagious virus, and the the curve is on a steady incline. As well as I got feedback from my different colleagues who are working all across the country, who are working in government institutions or private institutions, who are coming in contact with these patients. So the primary aspect which we require today is personal protective equipments to protect from the virus getting to the doctor or the healthcare professionals. So we were lacking those. Then when quarantine happened or the lockdown happened, we had to go in the areas where they were for screening, in the areas where there were suspected cases. So there were cases of violence against doctors and healthcare workers, and some of which were very famous, or they were viral or trending on internet, like the one which happened in Indore. So all these aspects were triggering me a lot, and I was very concerned about it. And as a medical fraternity member, or as an individual, as a citizen of India, I wanted to raise some issues, because this was a pan-India issue and not just limited to one particular state or one particular city. So I tried to approach a few authority members, to politicians, to uh, higher up officials about the actual ground reality and what is happening. And we need personal protective equipment, and not just doctors, but healthcare workers in general need personal protective equipment to safeguard themselves and to be able to serve the society more. If they are in pink of health, they'll be able to serve the society better, and they'll be able to serve the patients better. So it was not happening. The personal protective equipments were
Not
not.
only that, I think it is a basic human right that, doctors, I guess, are more exposed to the viral load. They are treating patients, even if not directly with the working with COVID patients. There's a high likely that they'll be exposed to the virus because they are in the hospital.
Absolutely.
And of course, there is somebody who just comes in contact with another patient for a short while is at a different level of risk compared to a doctor who's being exposed to the virus day in and day out. So definitely it's a question of human right. If you are so worried about your own health, or you're not able to protect yourself, then how would you protect how are you going to help the patients, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I tried to do some research. I mean, I did some research, and while contacting these higher up officials, I could not get any result from that. So I decided.
So how did you approach them? Did you write mails to them? Did you get their phone number and call them up? What were
I did both actually. I
Mhm.
wrote emails also. I sent them official emails on my letterhead. Then I called a few politicians, but this was a matter which was not being taken up properly, and doctors were not given proper attention and the proper gas which they require. Thereafter, I decided to file a public interest litigation because this was a matter which was concerning most of the healthcare workers, and as you said, it was a human rights matter. So I tried to move the petition on 21st of March, but I could not because it was the lockdown had happened in Delhi a little much before than it happened in the entire country. And on 21st of March, our honorable Prime Minister had declared a Janta curfew. So we could not move the petition physically in the honorable Supreme Court.
Right.
Initially, I was trying to file this case in person because in that case you do not have to hire a lawyer or you do not have to go through the very lengthy and tedious process, and you can just give your representation as a common citizen. But it was not happening because there was a lockdown in Delhi. Then I tried to move it postally. I drafted it as per my knowledge and as per my capacity. I drafted it and I tried to send it postally, but because the transportation system had also shut down, I could not send it postally as well. Then I got in touch with a few lawyers in the Supreme Court, and I would like to mention a few names over here who have helped me a lot. That is
Please.
Advocate Anand Grover ji. He has been instrumental in guiding me all throughout. And Advocate Astha Sharma, who has been a strong pillar of support, and she has done a tremendous job and a fantastic job all throughout, guiding me, supporting me, and filing the cases for me, not just this time, but previously also. And Advocate Prastut Dalvi, who filed everything for me in the Supreme Court. So thereafter, I could not move this case in the Supreme Court. I could not postally send it. So, with the help of Advocate Astha Sharma, I procured a few email IDs of the Supreme Court judges, and I emailed them personally on their emails, requesting them to take this matter as a suo moto case and give us, the doctors and the healthcare workers, some personal protective equipments and police protection and isolation rooms or wards, so that we as medical fraternity, when we are exposed to the COVID virus, we do not have to go back to our houses and expose our family or our neighbors to the same virus. So we required that. Then we required transportation facilities because it is in a lockdown. How do we commute from place A to place B for our work? And how should we uh, attend to the patients when we are exposed to the COVID virus? These were few prayers which I had mentioned, but this matter was not taken up as a suo moto matter as well. Then after that, I tried to contact the Solicitor General of India, Mr. Tushar Mehta, who gave me reassurance on the text, but there was no process going on a wider scale, which was a little disheartening. And I was getting more eager or getting more anxious as to how should I proceed further and what should I do. Thereafter, I tried to contact Additional Solicitor General, Mr. Aman Lekhi, but I could not get through him. Then I tried to contact BJP spokesperson, Mrs. Minakshi Lekhi, and I could get hold of her assistant or a PA. And I briefed him everything and I sent the letter also, but there was no response from that side. Then thereafter, the Supreme Court had opened a new, I'm sorry, Supreme Court had opened a new portal on the website itself where we could mention our cases, and if it is of urgent basis, they would take it up. And they had given phone numbers also, that if your matter is not taken up as an urgent petition, you can call on that number and request for urgent hearing. So I tried that also, but could not get through. Then I emailed or gave a re-email or a reminder to the CGI and the 5 other judges, and also on that portal which was on the website, Supreme Court website, but I could not get this any result from there. And this was still March 26th. Thereafter, we decided to properly go through proper channel and we filed a public interest litigation. It was a writ petition, and Advocate Astha Sharma and Advocate Prastut Dalvi compiled this petition, and Mr. Sunil Fernandez appeared for me on 1st of April, and this matter was taken up by the registry, and two judges were sitting on the bench, Justice Chandrachud and Justice Shah, who heard this petition, and Mr. Sunil Fernandez was arguing from my side, and Honorable Solicitor General was appearing from the Union of India's side. And notices were served to the Union of India, and thereafter a week's time was given for them to respond back. And on 8th of April, we got the result that it was a very detailed judgment in which they had particularly mentioned which all category of doctors require which kind of personal protective equipment. So every doctor does not require the same kind of personal protective equipment. It depends upon the kind of exposure you have with the patient and the kind of work you are doing in the hospital, which requires those kind of equipments. So we got that result, a very favorable result, in which it was a detailed judgment, and they gave us police protection also, they gave us personal protective equipments also, and they directed the state government and the union government to procure this from local manufacturers, as well as stop the export if necessary, and provide professionals all across the India, and especially in tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well. So one has to understand coronavirus is not just contained in big metropolitan cities like Delhi, Mumbai or Pune, but it is percolating down to district level also and taluka level also, where preparedness has to be there, and the preparedness being the personal protective equipments. Thereafter, why police protection is required is when our fraternity members go to the localities or um, hotspots where there is a lot of cases being detected, or the person has come in contact with a lot of individuals, they have to be screened. Now their safety and security is very important, because if these people do not go to these locations, then we will not be able to understand the true depth or the true the expansion of the coronavirus in the society. So that is why we required the police protection. And thereafter, the Supreme Court gave a very good judgment, and the central government also took cognizance and issued many notices thereafter.
Right. So on ground, do you see a change in the situation since this order?
Absolutely, absolutely. There has been a phenomenal change and a drastic change from what it was previously. And after post the Supreme Court order, even the central government, they issued a notification on. So my case was heard on 8th, and the judgment came on 8th. And on 11th, the center directed the all the states to provide police protection to all healthcare workers. Then another notification came on 13th of April and 20th of April. And these all directed, I mean, the central government was procuring more and more personal protective equipments and started diverting these contracts to private industries or manufacturers. And it started with 11 manufacturers producing these PPE kits domestically, and right now it has increased to 50 manufacturers. And it started with a couple of lakh PPEs that were being ordered to be procured, and now it has reached to almost more than a crore PPEs. And police protection has been given in all states of India. And in Maharashtra also, there was a government resolution which was passed on 11th of April 2020, in which they had a very detailed resolution, particularly giving powers to the collector and the local municipal corporations to procure these PPEs from all the manufacturers and provide it to the doctors in the various institutions and government setups. And on 22nd of April, an ordinance was passed by our Honorable President of India under Section 123 of Indian Constitution, and he made an amendment in our Epidemic Act, which was launched in 1897. So 123-year-old act, he brought in a amendment and an ordinance in that, and giving more security and safety to the healthcare workers.
Excellent. So, one thing I must appreciate is that you, not being a lawyer, have been successfully taking these up, effectively taking up these causes and taking them up to the highest level of judiciary and getting, good, great results. So how did you develop this interest in law, or how do you go about it? Because if you can give us some idea as to how did you get familiarized with this world of legal action?
So I'll share a small story, a background of this, because why and how I got so acclimatized or acquainted to law. So I was a 24-year-old kid, and I was doing my internship in Government Medical College in Nagpur when this first shooted side order came in for Tigris T27C1. And being a wildlife enthusiast, I had no idea. I was very touched by this
Oh,
order
right.
of shooted side order, but I did not know anything about legal matters. So as to how I have to approach the court, which jurisdiction does it come in, and what is a writ petition, what is a public interest litigation, what is an affidavit, or what is a stricture, I had no idea at all. But as and when I jumped into it and I sat with my lawyers and understood it, so as much as uh, getting involved in a case is there, that you brief the lawyer, I was also sitting with the lawyer and typing the entire petition at one particular time, because the time factor was very crucial at previously. It was a shooted side order and it had to be done on a urgent basis. So I practically learned how to type out the matters for the high court, what is the uh, legal language which is required, a par basic legal language which is required, and how you have to go about it. So experience taught me as to how to approach a court or how to approach a lawyer. And being filing so many public interest litigation, slowly steadily I understood that what has to be done and what are the steps which has to be followed.
Okay. How many PILs have you filed so far?
I have filed almost 9 public interest litigation in the last 3 years.
Great. I think this is something that lawyers and law students should learn from. That since I don't think even lawyers and law students take this much interest in filing public interest litigation in very just cases, and you can make so much of a big difference with public interest litigation. I think this is a great example that uh, Jerryl is setting. Thank you, Jerryl, for that. And why don't we straight jump into the issue of procurement of PPE? So right now, I think there are a lot of circulars and rules have been notified about who can access PPEs and who can manufacture what. Also, there's a grave concern about the quality of the PPEs that are being made available. And also, there are a lot of restrictions on procurement of medicines, essential medicines that apply to COVID. So, how is this working right now on the ground as a doctor, if you can tell us?
So personal protective equipments are just 1 second.
Sure, sure. Please take your time.
So personal protective equipments are to be provided to all the doctors by the authority members itself. And because there was no guidelines given by the government, and there was no see, COVID-19 has come as a pandemic, and we were not prepared for it. So
Right.
there are no guidelines, no protocols which can be followed, or there is nothing which had happened previously which could give us some idea as to how we have to go about it. So once this case came in, and once the government also realized, they started giving notifications and they started issuing directives to the state government, to the central government. And this is how everything started to come into place. Now, personal protective equipments are not necessary for each and every doctor. They are required only for the persons who are directly dealing with the COVID-19 patients or screening.
But there have been cases where it has there are hospitals which are not related to COVID-19, but even there it has spread and other doctors got affected. And there are sometimes hospitals where there are two wings where there are some place there are COVID-19 patients and other places where there are normal patients. So what can be done? Don't doctors need some protection
So
here?
basically, in all institutes, there are two types of OPDs. One is a normal OPD and one is a fever clinic. So in fever clinic, heavily and most dominantly, we are seeing these suspected cases of COVID. Suspected cases are ones who are showing symptoms, but some patient can also come who is asymptomatic but had an exposure history. So the doctor who is screening these patients has to have the protection. But once the patient comes to an OPD and is shifted for another ailment, may it be different from coronavirus, may it be cardiac patient, may it be a neurological patient. So the patients who are being attended to in a different setup, they do not require these kind of personal protective equipments. But the doctor or the healthcare professional who is screening these patients in the OPD, that is outpatient department, they very much require
They
these.
definitely need it.
Uh,
But right. We are also hearing that a lot of cases are asymptomatic in case of COVID. So even if somebody, let's say, coming in for a treatment of, say, something else, how do you know until the test takes a while to deliver results, right? So
Exactly. So asymptomatic patients are a very big problem that the medical fraternity is facing, because till the time from the time you are exposed, so you are exposed from day zero, the symptoms will take a few days to be pronounced, to come in action. And when you are sneezing or when you are coughing or when you are speaking, your droplet infection are still going to the different person, and you might be asymptomatic, and this might spread the infection. So each and every person who is coming to OPD or outpatient department, who is being screened for any kind of diseases, may it be for corona, may it be for cardiac patient, may it be for orthopedic patient, they have to have a screening process for which PPE is required. So asymptomatic patients are there. That is why every individual who is going to screen these patients or the exposed individuals in the.
right, Jeril, I understand that, but the screening is not foolproof, isn't it? Like once you screen them, you don't know for sure that they are not carrying corona.
For screening process, there are different issues, sir.
Right.
We cannot comment on full proof of being the screening process. See, every test has a false positive and false negative.
No, but test takes time, right? Like, say if somebody comes to the hospital saying that, okay, this person has, let's say, a terrible stomach ache, right? And you need to take them in and admit them. Maybe they have an appendicitis, but at that time they might also be having corona, of which there is no symptom. You may not find it in the screening, right?
Exactly, that is happening, and there are many doctors who have to get quarantined because they screened a patient who was asymptomatic, and he turned out or she turned out to be a positive case. And in
Right.
that particular scenario, it is very risky for the patient as well as for the relatives and for the doctors as well. So there have been cases in Delhi, there have been cases in uh, Bihar, there have been cases in Nagpur and Maharashtra where the doctors themselves had to be quarantined because they screened a patient who was asymptomatic or who did not reveal his exposure history.
Right.
So this is also a matter of discussion. There are two school of thoughts in this, that every patient which is coming should be screened for coronavirus, or
Mhm.
every doctor who's seeing any kind of patient should be protected with a PPE
PP.
kit. So there
Mhm.
are two schools of thought.
Right. So, if you can tell us a little about regarding where do doctors currently get PPE kit? Can they just go out in the market and buy one for themselves, or is it provided by the government? Is there sufficient provisions? How does it work?
See, right now even private medical shops also are providing the PPE kits. Now the manufacturing has exponentially increased, and private doctors can procure it from a local manufacturer or local provider. But the ones who are serving in COVID designated hospitals, that is the government hospitals or government setups, those people can procure it from the government authorities only, or they are getting free PPE kits from the government authorities. So they do not need to go out and procure it for themselves. Well, if they are running short of it, they might do it as well. So there are many very good non-governmental organizations, also very good Samaritarians also, who are providing it to the doctors and healthcare workers. And we welcome that step and we are appreciating it with our whole hearts. But for the COVID designated hospitals, we are getting it from the government itself.
Right. So when there is a big question about the quality of this PPE kit, sometimes, because you have suddenly so many new manufacturers who are just getting into it, how is quality control and effectiveness of these PPE kits are being monitored? Sometimes there are reports of imported COVID kits which are not affected. So what is the protection mechanism in place for that?
So basically, I will take a few minutes and explain you what a particular personal protective equipment kit is all about and what it should have. So corona is a droplet infection. It is in the air, and the droplet is suspended in the air for about 1 meter, that is 3.5 feet. So you have to protect yourself from those droplets. Now, those droplets can not only come in contact with your face, but it can come in contact with your fabric, with your hair, with your eyewear, with your shoes, with your pants, or anywhere on the hard surface as well. When you touch that hard surface, it survives on that hard surface for a few hours, depending on which surface it has landed upon. Now, when you touch that surface and then touch your face, you are in the high probability to contact that virus. Now, personal protective equipments are very simple. They are gown, they are mask, N95 mask, they are eye gear, headgear, and shoes and gloves. So when you wear these, you are blocking yourself from the external environment. You create a shield and do not let these droplet infection come in contact with your skin or your body in totality. Now, these have to be of a standardization. So the World Health Organization, when they declared this as a pandemic, they also gave a lot of guidelines and protocols which have to be followed in COVID-19. And they had given a particular type of gowns, a particular type of eyewear, a particular type of mask, which should be used. And also they gave guidelines on which kind of administrative level officer or which kind of doctor has to use which kind of mask or personal protective equipment. So the current situation which is going on in India, there is a nodal agency, that is ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research. They are updating their protocols every few days, and they are assigning which kind of personal protective equipment should be provided to the doctors and what are to be procured from the local manufacturers. So the local manufacturers also have to be of a standardization, if not WHO, but Indian standardization.
Who
Then
is
on
who is monitoring these standards, or how do you, when you are buying something, how do you know that this is up?
central government is uh, monitoring all these process. So there are 50 manufacturers as of now by the latest notification given by the central government who can produce these kind of PPE kits locally. Now, when you take these PPE kits, some of the PPE kits have been imported from China. There was a consignment of 1,50,000 PPE kits which had come. But when they did the testing, two of the consignment, I think it was approximately 50,000 and 20,000 number of PPE kits which were defective, which did not have the air seal barrier. So these kind of PPE kits are of no use, because if you are getting the infection, you are getting a false sense of security. And even then, if you are getting coronavirus, then it just creates a lot of panic and disturbance in the entire medical fraternity and also in the public at large. So you require the standardized PPE kits and also the N95 masks.
Right. So there have been a lot of cases in the past about hoarding masks, and I'm sure some level of hoarding of essential goods.
Right.
And of course, many of these would lead to cases in the future. But currently, what is the rule or law that government has? Of course, there are certain laws like the Essential Commodities Act, etc. So hoarding may be punishable. But what's happening in your experience, and from your PIL experience, what are you observing?
See, whenever this is a very common experience, which you might have also seen, that uh, almost practically every year we see there is a surge in the rate of onions in one particular season or one particular a few months. So this is a normal tendency to hoard, or when there is increase in demand, the supply is limited. They try to cut down the supply so that they can increase the cost of that particular product and sell it at a higher cost at a later stage. So initially we were seeing a surge of the cost in basic surgical mask. Also there was a shortage of hand sanitizer also, and these hand sanitizers on a normal day would cost certain x amount of rupees, and due to its increased demand, it was on a exponentially, it was expensive. So was the case with all the mask and PPE kits, and there were just HIV kits which we were being able to use. And now that there has been regulation and there has been notification by the central government and they are monitoring it very well, so there has not been any case which was so much evident that some individual is holding these kind of personal protective equipments. And also there is, as you rightfully mentioned, that Essential Commodity Act, it attracts criminal offense, and it can attract punishment up till 7 years and also fine or both. And Prevention of Black Marketing and Maintenance of Supplies of Essential Commodities Act 1980 also protects from individuals holding these kind of essential equipments or essential materials right now.
Right, and also there is an issue of predatory pricing which would be taken up. There are organizations which have done predatory pricing with respect to certain goods, and we are expecting that eventually there will be a lot of cases regarding this. Another area that would definitely be interesting for lawyers to watch out for is cases being filed by medical professionals later on for negligence by employers, where they have fallen sick or have suffered because of contracting COVID-19 because they were not provided the right kind of equipment. So one angle obviously is that the Supreme Court has given its orders, and the central government has taken action, but also implementation by organizations is tricky, and probably 6 months to 1 year down the line, when things return to a little normalized situation and courts open up, we might see people who have suffered justifiably so knocking the doors of the court for compensation, right? So this is also something that as lawyers we are very curious about how things will shape up going forward. If you can throw some light on transportation, because there have been a major supply chain disruption that has happened. If you can throw some light on transportation of these essentials, and it has to, like you said, there are at least 450 districts all over India which are affected by COVID-19. There are some cases in so many districts. There are, I think, about 300 plus districts where it has not reached yet, but even then, probably we need to build up supplies everywhere in India for to protect the medical professionals within, to protect them in time. So, what are your thoughts on that, Jerryl? Like, what is the government doing, or what are the rules that enable private parties to transport or take action against this?
So there is a new notification which has come out on 24th of April in the Union government, and which mentions about the transportation of the essential goods, which also involve uh, PPE kits and other kinds of essential items which are enlisted in the constitution or the proper documents. And it says that there will be 22 long routes across 34 states and no, sorry, interspread in 34 intrastate and interstate schedules touching 75 cities and over 500 kilometers. So these are the routes which they have designated and which will be open from now on, and they will be carrying all the essential goods for so that it can reach from state to state or intrastate, and there will be no shortage of the required essential goods. And I'll also come back to one of the points which you just mentioned about the cases which might surge upon on the negligence on the part of the employer for the employees, that are the resident doctors or the junior doctors. See, even right now there is just being we are being insured after our death. The central
Right.
government has given us insurance of 50 lakh rupees, that if we contact the coronavirus or if there is some mishap during on duty or and we lose our life, then we will get 50 lakh rupees. But if I'm contacting the deceased right now, there is no particular notification given as to what will be the course of action for a doctor or a healthcare worker. And I'm not concentrating on doctors only at this moment. I'm talking about each and every healthcare professional, who's the nurse is also very important, the ward boy who's coming to clean your room is also very important, in the quarantine houses also, where these people are serving and they are dedicating their lives and they are doing this service for the entire nation. Everybody is equally important in this entire structure. So the government and the law, you honorable advocates and very learned advocates also should think about it and take up some kind of matter, that what can be done for these healthcare workers if they are fallen sick because of coronavirus today, right now.
Right.
If they die, then they will get the insurance. That is a very secondary aspect. But today is the need, or the solution should come for today, not in the futuristic manner. Now, coming back to the transportation facility, so these transportation routes have been opened up, and hopefully the essential goods will supply within these 75 cities smoothly, and there will be no hampering of the any sort of
Supply chain. Yeah.
yes, essential goods.
Right. So, if the one aspect is obviously manufacturing of these essential things, and medicine manufacturing has also been affected in India. So do you have any thoughts on that? And like, what are the, how is the legal system supporting it in your experience?
So basically, you're talking about hydroxychloroquine, I think.
No, not only that, even other, like many drugs have been kind of affected, and overall many drug manufacturing companies have had to like shut down production or drastically reduce production.
No, I think I would beg to disagree on this point. So medical
Mhm.
production has never been affected because of coronavirus, because this is a very par basic essential item. It
Right.
is as
No, not that the government is stopping, but like for example, the chairman of CIPLA gave an interview explaining why they have not been able to operate factories, because the fact that they have the license to run it, they can run it. Government is not stopping it, but at the same time, they do not have access to the laborers, for example, and they don't have transport, so they're not willing to come into the. And some many people are afraid to come to the factory, and there are things like that happening in many like there are disruption in medicine manufacturing. I think the government has made a rule that if somebody refuses to come into work in these essential services, then they can be terminated without pay, etc. But at the same time, there is a challenge. So do you have any comments on that?
see, there might be some reported cases in individual pockets of the country, but
Mhm.
as such, the medical supply or the medicine supply has not been disrupted at all.
Right.
And what you were talking about, that if you are not coming on the duty and you will be terminated, that is a very different aspect. And essential services, of course, the people who are dedicated to the job, they are coming, and there might be some reasons why they might not be able to come on the job.
Mhm.
But termination and removal of these people should not be done at the forefront. They should understand the reason why they are not being able to come, and then take any kind of such drastic
Right.
step.
Right. Mhm.
And regarding the medicine supply, it is smooth as of now, and we are not having any crunches of any sort, may it be for hydroxychloroquine or may it be for any essential medications. And we are exporting also. We have exported it to America, and we have done it on a very huge scale. So, and in the last few notifications which I read about the central government, so we have a huge stock of hydroxychloroquine even for India, and then only we have started the export. So we
Right.
have
Right.
3 times the required amount already in India, and which can be increased as well. And I would like to point out one more point over here, that a hydroxychloroquine was invented by our own Indian person. So we should take pride in that, that in a pandemic of 2020, a simple medicine like hydroxychloroquine is acting like a wonder drug, and everybody is taking it for prophylactically, which was produced by an Indian manufacturer or a chemist long back. So my personal opinion would be the same, that medicine supply has not been affected too much. But if there are some individual incidences or some particular companies are facing staff crunch, that is quite natural, because staff crunch is going to happen much more in the coming few days, I guess.
Right. So that is good to know that there is no disruption. What are the other challenges you see going forward in terms of that the medical professionals are facing at the moment,
See,
healthcare workers as well?
the cases might go on a rise for a few more weeks or months. So the healthcare professionals have to be equipped, have to be geared enough, because the war or the fight is not over as yet. We have a long way to go. Psychologically, we are seeing a lot of patients who are going in clinical depression. Many are losing their jobs because of this economic slowdown. Many have to feed their own family, and they have no means to get the wages right now, because they are dependent on day to day earning. And things are going to get more difficult in the coming days, because rations will, at some point of time, it will come to a place where we will not have enough rations to uh, give to the entire country, which is 80 crores right now. They're providing to 80 crore citizens meals and rations and everything. Then clinical depression is going to go on a very high rise, because so many people are going to be unemployed. And basically, when the lockdown extends further, if at all it extends further, it will have much more effect on the patients also, as well as doctors also, because doctors are working at their optimum right now, and when they have to work much more in the coming few days, and the staff is getting shrinking by the day, because our staff is also getting coronavirus. They also have to be quarantined. They might start showing symptoms. They cannot perform their entire duty. Then at that time we will have to face, and we will have to be united to see what comes next, and we have to be strong mentally, physically, economically, and we have to support each other, because the time is going to come. It is inevitable. Doctors also have to be prepared, medical fraternity also has to be prepared, citizens also have to be prepared. We have to reduce our needs right now. We have to take care that we should not buy unnecessarily and hoard it in our own houses, because we should understand, if we are holding some kind of essential commodity, there might be a person who might be needing it much more than we do, and might face a lot of problems because of us. So psychologically also we have to support each other, especially the elderly, because in elder generation clinical depression manifests much more faster than the uh, younger generation. So we, moving forward to the deeper end of the swimming pool, we have to be more equipped with each and every kind of weapon which we have in our hand right now.
Right. Excellent. So just just so one last thing, if you can tell us, as advocates, there's a lawyer community who would be watching this. Many of them are watching. What could lawyers possibly do to help in like if there are any legal issues that remain pending, or there are any other things that you see in the coming times that lawyers can contribute in this? Please suggest, and what kind of work may be there for lawyers to do in this.
See, first and foremost, I would like to ask you, or the lawyer fraternity, is to explain to the common public in a very simple language what these notifications are. What has the central government told the state governments? What the state government has told the local bodies? What are the legal rights of a citizen in today's time? There might be many people who would know, but much bigger number of individuals who still do not know what is going on, and what are the legal rights right now, what is epidemic act, what are the notifications given by the supreme court, what are the judgments given by the supreme court, what are the notifications given by the central government, what are government resolutions. If you could have interactive sessions with targeting the common public, the layman, and explaining them that this is the notification, and the implications are such, or what you can be how it can be beneficial to you, that would be of major help to all the citizens first. Second, if you could start taking up cases of doctors, of individuals who are working in public sector, or who want to do something for the public interest. See, there are so many times when I also stumble across individuals who want to file a case for a larger interest, but they do not have the means to approach to a lawyer, or it becomes too expensive to file a public interest litigation, or expensive to hire a lawyer to go to high court or go to supreme court. That can be dealt with only you. I mean, lawyer fraternity can help these kind of individuals to go and fight out the cases which is of public interest. Then third is that when these cases are being heard, or when these I know this is very in general topic, but some of the cases prolong too much. I don't know if lawyers can help the common citizens in that, but the justice, when justice is delayed, the justice is denied, is what I believe. So if, as a lawyer fraternity or as a judicial fraternity, if you can expedite the process of any case, that is very beneficial to any individual for that matter, not just for public interest litigations, not just for uh, matters which are pertaining to properties, but in general, if the matters are taken up on a much speeder process,
Of
it will
course,
be
yeah.
more beneficial for the entire
Hmm.
citizens, all citizens.
Right. Any pending issues that you see for in the, from COVID perspective that needs to be taken up with courts or the government or policy makers?
I think one of the cases which I would like to take up is about the risk allowances, compulsory risk allowances for the doctors and the medical health professionals. Like when I'm serving the patient, and if I contact the deceased, what and how should I do? Can there be any help given by the government to me? Can there be any financial help given to my family, because I am the bread earner of the family and I have on the line of duty I've contacted the deceased. So there should be some safety and security provided to the doctor, and there should be some measures taken so that he does not uh, his productivity does not hamper. And
Right. It's a good point. Yes.
if he contacts the virus and he's not able to perform his duty thereafter, there should be some measures taken to at least give him some reassurance to serve the public better, so that it boosts the morale of the entire fraternity as well.
Is there anything else that you can think of?
I think also that there have been instances when the doctors have been abused and they have been violently uh, beaten up. So these kind of protection should be given on a national level, and not just during the COVID period or when the epidemic is going on, but it should be continued for a longer time and all throughout the year and all throughout the country, that the doctors should get protection for when they are serving the patients, and we should not be physically or verbally abused by the patients. And also, if you can, one more thing which the lawyers can do is about uh, making more doctors aware of their um, rights, as when they are serving the patient they should be safeguarded, and there are many laws which are safeguarding the doctors, but we are not aware about it, and how should we go about it. So if you could just explain it to the doctor fraternity, it could be much very beneficial for us.
Right. So yeah, this and also I think perhaps the one thing that I can think of, that there could be some sort of a helpline for doctors if they are, for example, facing trouble with their landlord, or any maybe they're living in certain societies where people are not very welcoming, trying to kind of kick them out, and these kind of things have been reported in the news in the past. So maybe there can be lawyers who kind of come together and help out uh, such doctors, right? So I think that would be wonderful. And I think this is a time when we must support the medical professionals, healthcare workers, and nurses and everybody else who are providing essential services. And there's a lot we can do as lawyers in this scenario. With that in mind and with that spirit, if there are any questions, we can quickly take up. Otherwise, we'll wrap this session. Anybody has any question, you can raise your hands. Okay. I don't see any particular questions as such. All right. Thank you so much, Jerryl, for joining us today and sharing your insights and experience. This was a very instructive and wonderful experience. Uh, all the best with your legal endeavors and PIL endeavors. Mridul Sharma has a question. You want to come online and ask that Mridul? You wanted to know if there's manufacturer need permission? Yeah, they need government permission to manufacture face shields and cleaning tunnels and everything else. Yep. 1 second. I will Yes, Mridul, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. So,
Good evening, ma'am.
we are a team of engineers who are working to manufacture these things.
Yeah.
We sense a big shortage of these. So, what we wanted to know is how should we proceed about the legal things? Like we have basically no idea. We are people who have graduated from various engineering colleges. And we know the manufacturing part. We can take care of the things.
Where are you located, Mridul?
Jaipur.
Okay. I am. If there is anything Jerryl can help with, please go ahead. I have shared my phone number. You can reach out to me, and I'll connect you with experts who can definitely kind of guide you through this process and help you out. You'll have to get certain clearances from government, and you have to also kind of dovetail into the government system so that you can actually distribute and put these things to good use, right?
See, I'd like to pitch in about this. So he asked about the cleaning tunnels. So, Vidul, these were very rampantly being installed all throughout the country, where they were spraying 0.5 to 2% of.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay.
sodium hypochlorite,
Yeah.
and there has been direction given by the central government that this should stop immediately, because this has more hazardous effect than it has any beneficial effect, and it was just giving a feel good factor to the common individual. So but it has more damaging effects. As a doctor, I'm telling you that it causes dermatitis, it causes respiratory infections, and it is more dangerous than it is beneficial. It is used only for the hard surfaces where you can clean those surfaces like table, chair, or maybe the utensils which you are using for a longer period. But it should not be sprayed in a tunnel type of fashion which was being installed in police stations, in the hospitals. So it has been stopped right now, and there is a clear indication or a clear notification to stop those clearing tunnels. Now coming to the point where you asked about the PPE equipments being manufactured. So your particular industry or your particular manufacturing unit has to be recognized by the central government or the state government for that matter, and it should be of standardization. So as earlier in the conversation we also discussed about the importing of PPE kits from China. If they are not of standard level, it is of no use to any doctor or any healthcare professional. So your company should be registered by the government, and the product should be of standardized level of ICMR or DRDO, and then and only then can you manufacture it on a wider scale and distribute it.
Yeah. So actually, what we are more focused on is the face shields, the ones that they basic do the protection against spatter of any kind of
Right,
with the when people interact and all that. So PPE kits usually it's cloth material, so we usually don't get into that because
right,
that requires higher level of quality assurance.
Expertise, sure, sure, sure.
right. So I'll
So
explain.
yeah.
If you are thinking about manufacturing this, so your
Hmm.
face, your entire face should be covered.
Yeah.
At the same time, you should be able to get fresh air.
Yes, exactly.
It should not cover your face in a way that you're not exposed to fresh air from outside. So if I'm wearing a glass, I can have another glass on this, or if you have a face shield, if that is what I'm understanding from your words.
That's what it
So
is.
it should be from here, and it should cover till below. So if I am talking, or if there is a droplet infection, it will come on the face shield itself. It will not enter.
Right.
One,
So
I'll just explain in a quick second, and you should have headgear also. So this kind of, can I have mask, please? So if this is the face shield, right? Can you see?
yeah. So we are actually out of time, Jerry. We need to wrap it up.
So it
So
will not enter on your face. That is what.
understood. Understood. Yeah, and also it is possible that even if you are not able to supply it to the medical community for any kind of issues, you might still be able to help other organizations. There are plenty of people out there working on the ground who are not medical professionals, and they have even less access to this kind of equipment. So you can help them out. You can help out other people who need personal protection at the moment. There is Sharad who wanted to ask a quick question. Let's see what Sharad has to ask. Sharad, yes.
Yeah, there was some news report that China, some company had supplied test kits, and they were very overpriced because the middlemen had kept a lot of margins. So I wanted to understand what is the transparency and the tendering process and all those things, how the safeguard is being taken care of, and what is happening, because
See, right
lot
now
of
things are not going things are not going through too much of procurement process that happens normally because it's an emergency service being procured on an emergency basis. There may be later on, like I said, competition law cases or predatory pricing in the future. But right now, I don't think anybody, neither is courts are ready to hear such matters, nor people are, like obviously there are certain laws that government can use to marshal resources and book people who engage in predatory behavior. But at the same time, right now it's the fact is that there is an increased demand after all, right? So things are more expensive than they used to be. When there is a supply hasn't changed much, but demand has increased rapidly. So right now, I don't think governments are too finicky about the procurement process. They understand that right now the priority is to get the equipment and give people the protection. Okay, thank you, Sharad.
Thank you.
We are out of time. We are gonna wrap up for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Jerryl, and we hope to have you another time and interact with you again in the future. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe. Take care. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.